Chapter 4. The technical school was now behind him, like a noisy, chaotic dream, leaving him with a diploma as a specialist in. Honestly, Thomas wasn't even sure in what exactly. The last year of studies has passed in a haze. He had received his certification more out of inertia than because of any real knowledge. His parents, satisfied simply by the fact that their son had finished something, breathed a sigh of relief. The next question arose: what now? He needed to find a job. Thomas's father, through his connections, found him a position at a bank, a small, recently opened branch on the outskirts of the city. The position? A client services specialist. In essence, a jack of all trades, sitting behind the counter, offering consultations, helping fill out credit agreements, and trying to sell the bank's new products. Thomas agreed without much enthusiasm. To him, working at the bank seemed to be the pinnacle of boredom: numbers, paperwork, and suits. But he didn't have many options, and he didn't want to stay at home, freeloading off his parents. Besides, somewhere deep down, there was a faint hope that a change of scenery, a strict schedule, and the necessity to maintain a professional appearance might help him pull himself together, might subdue the demon that had been raging inside him for the last couple of years. The first day were pure torture. The need to wear a suit and tie weighed him down. The strict rules, corporate ethics, constant supervision by the management, all of it stifled him. He felt out of place in this world of meticulous clerk and polite smiles. But there was no turning back, and, to his own surprise, he began to adjust. Perhaps the novelty of the environment played a role. Perhaps a period of relative calm in his inner chaos coincided with the start of the job. Or maybe the energy that had previously spilled out in clownish antics and aggressions had found a new channel. The job required communication, constant, intensive, with all kinds of people. And Thomas discovered that he actually liked it. Or at least he was good at it. The ease of communication that blessed him during his highs turned out to be immensely useful here, though it demanded a different expression. He was quick to learn the necessary scripts and business phrases. He mastered speaking politely yet confidently. He learned to listen, not just to words, but to what lies behind them. The anxiety of an elderly woman unable to understand the conditions of her deposit, the impatience of a businessman who needed a loan quickly, the confusion of a student opening their first account. He learned to find the right approach. With older women, he was pointedly courteous and patient, explaining the same thing over and over again. With business professionals, he spoke clearly, to the point, armed with numbers and facts. With young people, he could joke, but not as crudely or recklessly as he had in vocational school. His humor was light and appropriate. It was as though he wore different mask, yet he did it so skillfully that even he began to believe in his own competence and charm. Sales came especially naturally to him. Convincing a client to take out a credit card, sign up for insurance, or open a new account became a kind of game for him, a thrill. He used all his natural intuition, his knack for speaking, knowing when to apply pressure, when to flatter, when to play on emotions. The management was pleased. His performance indicators were improving, and he was held up as a role model to other newcomers. He even began receiving small bonuses. It was a valuable experience. He truly learned how to communicate, understand people, and steer a conversation. He acquired skills that were valuable not only for his job, but also for life. For the first time in a long while, he felt something akin to satisfaction with his work, a sense of pride in himself. He was no longer just the old guy or the joker. He was Thomas, a promising bank employee. It was during this period riding the wave of relative stability and professional success that Egle appeared in his life. She worked in a neighboring department, handling paperwork, but often brought documents to the customer service hall. Petite, fair-haired, with a quiet smile and serious gray eyes. Thomas didn't notice her right away, but then he started catching her glances, curious, somewhat observant. They began exchanging a few words at the water cooler, then short phrases in the hallway. Egle was not very talkative, but she knew how to listen. And in her calm demeanor, Thomas suddenly sensed something solid, something real. He didn't even realize when he started seeking encounters with her. He'd stay late after work to walk her to the bus stop. He told her about his successes, about amusing clients, about his plans, still grand, but now more realistic, getting a promotion, buying a car. He was charming, witty, gallant, energetic. The version of Thomas that everyone liked was now working at full capacity. Egle listened attentively, sometimes smiled, sometimes asked questions that showed she genuinely cared about what he was saying. She didn't laugh loudly at his jokes like the girls back in technical school, but in her eyes he saw interest and sympathy. One day, he mustered up the courage to ask her out to the movies. She agreed. Then there was another date and another. Their relationship developed slowly, cautiously. For the first time in his life, Thomas felt that he wasn't just being tolerated or used as a source of entertainment. Egle seemed to see something more in him than just a funny guy. She was interested in his thoughts, his feelings. He was in love, truly in love. These feelings was nothing like the euphoria he'd experienced in the past. It was deeper, calmer, but no less intense. Next to Egle, he felt normal, almost normal. He tried to control his mood swings, to hide his excessive energy or sudden bouts of irritability. He was afraid of scaring her off, afraid of showing the dark, unpredictable side that lived inside him. He desperately wanted to be the man he thought Egle had fallen in love with. For several months, life was almost idyllic. Work was going well, his relationship with Egle was progressing, and life, it seemed, was getting back on track. He nearly convinced himself that he had defeated his demons, that the strict suit and the love of the quiet girl had managed to drive his illness to the farthest corner of his mind. But the abyss was waiting for its moment. It started inconspicuously. At first, his energy disappeared. In the mornings, it became difficult to get out of bed. The work, which had recently seemed like an engaging game, turned into an unbearable burden. Smiling at clients became torture. Jokes stopped coming to mind. His thoughts became sluggish and clumsy. Then apathy set in. He stopped caring about sales, bonuses, and his boss's remarks. He mechanically carried out his duties, but without the slightest interest. The world around him lost its color, becoming gray, dull, and meaningless. And then it got worse. He began avoiding people. During lunch breaks, he'd retreat to some quiet corner to avoid talking to anyone. Social interaction wasn't just challenging, it became physically exhausting. Every word had to be forced out with immense effort. Sometimes he simply couldn't speak at all. He would open his mouth but couldn't find the words or didn't have the strength to say them. Colleagues looked at him in confusion and then with irritation. "What's wrong with you? Cat got your tongue?" He practically stopped eating. His appetite vanished entirely. Food seemed tasteless, like paper. He lost a lot of weight. His face became gaunt. Dark circles appeared under his eyes. He barely slept, waking up in the middle of the night with an inexplicable sense of anxiety or lying awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, feeling himself being sucked into a black hole of despair. His thinking truly deteriorated. Simple tasks that he used to solve in minutes now required enormous effort. He mixed up numbers, forgot clients' names, and couldn't focus on conversations. Mistakes at work began to pile up. At first, the mistakes were minor, but then they became more serious. His boss called him in and scolded him. Thomas stood before him with his head down and could barely string two words together in his defense. He felt stupid, worthless, broken. His relationship with Egle fell apart. He started avoiding her. He wouldn't answer her calls and came up with excuses to avoid meeting her. He couldn't explain to her what was happening to him and didn't want to. How could he explain this abyss inside him? How could he show her the ugly, helpless creature he had become? He saw her confusion, her hurt, her attempts to reach him, but he only pushed her away, retreating into his shell of pain and apathy. The love that had once seemed like salvation now brought nothing but suffering to both of them. This state didn't last for a week or two. It stretched on for long, endless months. Months of grey fog, sticky apathy, silence and despair. He went to work like an automaton, came home and collapsed onto the bed, unable even to undress. His parents noticed he was kind of listless and had lost weight, but they chalked it up to exhaustion and work problems. No one raised the alarm. It was then, in the depths of this bleak depression, that the final, terrifying realization came to Thomas. This is not just a teenage phase. This is not nerves. This is not a bad mood. This is an illness. A serious, real illness that lives inside him, controlling his life, tossing him from the fire of euphoria into the icy depths of despair. He is sick. That word echoed through his empty head. Sick, not like everyone else. Broken, flawed. This realization didn't bring any relief. It brought fear and a sense of complete hopelessness. If he's sick, does that mean he'll never be able to live a normal life? Does it mean he's condemned to these torturous mood swings? Does it mean he will always lose what is dear to him? Friends? Love? Work? He didn't know the answers. He lay in the darkness of his room, surrounded by silence, and felt infinitely alone in his illness. One he didn't yet have a name for, but those icy breaths he felt in every cell of his being. Working at the bank had given him valuable skills and his first love, but it had also, with merciless clarity, revealed the truth about himself, a truth he would have to learn to live with or perish.